Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the invisible world floating somewhere between fear and physics to investigate the massive public panic that surrounded 5G technology.
Okay, let's kick this off with a slightly unsettling question. What if I told you that right now, invisible waves are passing through your body? Every single second, every breath you take. Because while 5G promises revolutionary things, we're talking remote surgery and totally autonomous smart cities operating in real time, it also sparked a visceral global terror when it first rolled out.
I mean, the fear got so intense that back in 2020, people literally burned down over 90 cell towers across Europe. They honestly believed it was a weapon, a cancer trigger. But why the panic? Well, it's largely because the word radiation has been totally conflated with the mortal peril of radioactivity and nuclear fallout. We hear radiation and our brains immediately jump to the absolute worst-case scenario.
Section 1. Decoding the spectrum. Ionizing versus non-ionizing radiation. To really solve this mystery, we need to understand the electromagnetic spectrum and precisely where 5G actually sits on it.
So, there is a absolutely critical dividing line here. On one side, you have ionizing radiation. Think X-rays and gamma rays. This stuff actually has the high-frequency energy required to rip electrons right off atoms and damage your DNA. But on the flip side, we have non-ionizing radiation. That includes radio waves, and yes, 5T. This type of radiation simply cannot break chemical bonds. It literally doesn't have the raw physical energy to pull it off.
Think about it like this. 5G waves are like gentle little ripples washing up on the sand, not the massive, boulder-crushing waves of an ocean storm. Just like those tiny ripples completely lack the force to move heavy rocks on a shoreline, non-ionizing radiation lacks the power to disturb the heavy molecular rocks of your DNA.
Section 2. 5G versus everyday radiation. Let's look at the power of analogies to see how this compares to everyday items sitting right in your living room.
So, a single watt, that is a tiny, tiny amount of energy, right? And the vast majority of 5G smartphones transmit a maximum of just 1 watt. In fact, if you're hooked up to Wi-Fi or standing pretty close to a base station, that power output drops down to like 0.001 watts. It is a minuscule trickle of energy.
The crucial takeaway is right here in this data. A 5G base station uses roughly the exact same transmission power as a standard household light bulb. I mean, we've coexisted with light bulbs since the 1880s without any known issues from their radiation. And check out the bottom row. Old AM radio towers, which have been broadcasting around us for a century, output up to 500,000 watts. So 5G is using significantly less power than the stuff we've lived around our entire lives.
Plus, 5G actually uses a really clever technique called beamforming. It acts like a targeted pocket flashlight, focusing the signal directly to your specific device. This reduces your ambient exposure even more compared to the wide, scattered headlights of previous 3G and 4G generations, which kind of just blasted signals everywhere. Honestly, if you take away literally one thing from this explainer today, let it be this staggering fact. The everyday sunlight you enjoy on your face carries vastly more energy than a 5G signal. Sure, 5G can technically cause a microscopic amount of tissue warming, but standing in the sun for just 10 minutes heats your body 100 times more than an entire year of 5G exposure.
Section 3. Investigating the cancer myth and that $30 million rat study. Because despite the physics, fears about brain and skin cancer have stuck around for decades. So let's look at the ultimate lifetime exposure test.
The National Toxicology Program decided to put this to the test. Scientists blasted 3,000 rats with 4 times the legal human limit of cell phone radiation for 9 hours a day for their entire lives. It was an absolutely massive extreme scenario, and it did produce a very slight increase in heart tumors in male rats. But here is the massive scientific twist that shocked everyone. The rats exposed to this massive whole-body radiation actually lived longer than the unexposed control group, which left scientists scratching their heads asking, wait, how does this supposed carcinogen extend lifespan? Ultimately, the consensus was just that these completely extreme, non-human testing conditions don't translate to you holding a cell phone.
And when we couple those findings with massive human epidemiological studies from Australia, we get our real-world confirmation. Tracking data all the way from 1982 to 2013, there has been absolutely zero statistical increase in brain tumors over the last 30 years of massive mobile phone adoption. None.
Section 4. The Misinformation Curveball. Debunking the COVID-19 connection. We've got to briefly dismantle this wild curveball thrown at us in 2020, the completely fictional idea that 5G somehow transmits or weakens immunity against COVID-19.
Put very simply, a biological virus cannot physically hitch a ride on an electromagnetic radio wave. COVID-19 spreads through respiratory droplets. The laws of physics simply do not allow a biological entity to travel on a radio frequency. It's practically impossible.
Yet, as this chart shows, half of the population was still exposed to these sensational claims on social media in early 2020. It's just a crazy reminder of how easily terminology confusion, like completely misunderstanding what radiation actually means, spirals into a massive public panic when it gets amplified online.
Section 5. The real impact of 5G. The invisible lifeline. So, with the suspects cleared and the myths debunked, what's the actual verdict on our day-to-day exposure?
By monitoring real-time electromagnetic fields across entire cities, scientists discovered that in 99% of locations, ambient 5G exposure is less than 1% of international safety guidelines. You actually receive more electromagnetic radiation from natural background sources than you ever do from 5G towers.
To use one final analogy to put this all into perspective, if international safety guidelines are a massive, heavy-duty umbrella designed to keep you totally dry in a Category 5 hurricane, your daily 5G exposure is just a harmless, light drizzle. You aren't even getting damp.
So instead of being an invisible threat, this technology is quite literally the most scrutinized and rigorously tested system in human history. And because of that intense scrutiny, it's safely evolving into a lifeline. It enables real-time health monitoring, precision remote medicine that can actually reach rural areas, and the ultra-fast connections we need for autonomous smart cities.
I'll leave you with this final, kind of mind-bending thought. Our ancestors used to be absolutely terrified of harnessing fire and lightning, yet today we completely master them. So, in a modern world ruled by forces we can't see, where exactly does justified caution end and irrational fear begin? Is our fear of the unseen keeping us safe, or is it just holding us back from our superhuman future? Thank you so much for exploring this with me today. Keep asking questions, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.